What's going on, horror fanatics? I am Marcus. Welcome to our Sham 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. In this video, I will be discussing how Stu Macher could have faked his death in Scream 1996 based on some new potential clues that I found while rewatching the film recently. I will also be discussing how Stu Macher connects the films 2 through 6 if it is revealed he is alive in Scream 7, as I believe Stu may have been involved in every killing spree in some shape, way, or form throughout the entirety of the franchise. If you're a fan of Scream and other horror movie related conversations, please be sure to shoot the like button. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton. And if you happen to be a new viewer of the channel, please be sure to shoot the subscribe button followed by the bell icon to get all the latest content updates to the channel. Okay, y'all, so before I get into my theory on how Stu Macher could have faked his death, I want to point out some things that caught my attention recently that I'd never heard anyone speak of before. So remember the scene from Scream 1996 that preceded the Ghostface hallway prank scene where we see Principal Hembry pull these two students responsible for the prank in his office and verbally eviscerate them? I now believe, after rewatching this scene over, that these two unnamed students were a subtle Easter egg cluing us in on who the killers would end up being, as both have similarities to Stu Macher and Billy Loomis, but they also are the only ones outside of Stu, Sidney, and Billy to don a Ghostface costume in the film. The one on the right has an identical frame and hairstyle that favors Billy Loomis, and the one to the left has this Abercrombie type of style and appearance that is similar to Stu Macher. He is also seen wearing a blue flannel button-up shirt in this scene, and as we all know, usually a character who wears this in a Scream movie turns out to be a killer. To further back up my claim about this character and Stu Macher having similar dress styles, they both are seen rocking a somewhat tannish/brown button-up shirt that has a shirt underneath it, or in Stu Macher's case, a tank top, beater, whatever you prefer to call it, in different moments of the film. Now, the principal office scene with Hembry isn't the only time that we see these two unnamed students in the film, as both are seen attending Stu Macher's party towards the tail end of the movie. After the call comes through about Principal Hembry being found dead hanging from the football field goalpost, these guys, along with others, get up to leave to go remove Hembry from the goalpost. However, after further inspection of the scene, you will realize that only one of them leaves Stu Macher's house. Okay, now before I go forward, I do want to address something because it is important in regards to this scene when these guys are running out of Stu Macher's front door to leave. Now, I know this isn't the best shot of what these guys look like, but I don't think it matters because I don't know if they had to recast all five or the majority of the partygoers who were sitting on the couch when Randy announced Hembry's death, but these are not the same guys coming out of Stu's front door that was sitting on the couch. You even see a long blonde-haired character running out last that wasn't even seen sitting on the couch. I will say, I do believe the unnamed student who I said favors Billy Loomis was recast because when you see what looks like his character running out of the door and to his car, the coat he was wearing is the same, but his shirt underneath is completely different, as this time it seems he was wearing a flannel button-up as opposed to a grayish shirt that looks like it has a strip of stickers attached to it or whatever it may be. With that being said, and given the fact that we do not see anyone coming out of Stu's house looking like the character or wearing a similar wardrobe, I think it's safe to say that the unnamed student who shares similarities with Stu Macher did not leave Stu's house back in 1996, even though he was one of the first guys to get up off the couch to go to leave. And for those who may think that this guy or other partygoers left the party off screen, keep in mind that the only two cars you see leaving Stu's house are the only two cars you see running Dewey and Gale off the road a few moments later, meaning that these guys were the last to leave the party before the final act. So what happened to this unnamed student, and why wasn't he seen leaving Stu Macher's house that night back in 1996? Well, I want everyone to take into account that he was heavily intoxicated, as was the majority of the folks who had attended Stu Macher's party. And even though he may have headed toward the front door initially, he might have thought that he forgot something and circled back briefly to retrieve a certain something. We all know how it is leaving a party. We go to leave, then in a sudden instance we start to check to make sure that we have all of our belongings. I now believe this is what may have happened to this guy. He forgot something, quickly went to go look for it, and along the way, he was lured by Stu Macher towards the back of the kitchen, where Stu killed him and hid his body, and further used it to stage his death. Now, before some of you go crazy and say this doesn't add up, allow me to present some visual evidence from the original film that you might have overlooked that backs up the theory. Both are relatively short, so slowing the video down might be necessary. Okay, so I know both can be difficult to see, but if you look closely, in the first clip shown, you can see someone walking in Stu's house towards the back of the kitchen. And in the second clip, as Kenny's door is closing, if you look on the monitor, you see Randy by himself get up off of the couch and turn around as if he heard a noise before the scene cuts to the cars driving away. I believe if you piece these two moments together, you could make the case that the figure walking toward the back of the kitchen is the unnamed student being lured by Stu Macher to possibly go through the garage or into another room in the house close by, where Stu attacks him and kills the student, which may have involved a mini tussle between the two, which Randy might have heard briefly, prompting him to get up and react the way he did, as seen on Kenny's monitor. Now, I know some of you will say or ask, if this is indeed how Stu staged his death, then how did he get away undetected, and wouldn't Sidney and Gail have noticed the body wasn't Stu's, as well as DNA autopsy reports from the coroners in the aftermath? I have a plausible answer for all three issues. First, how Stu could stage his death and escape undetected is actually quite simple. After Sidney kills Billy, her, Randy, Neil, and Gail go outside and wait for the authorities to arrive. We don't know how long it takes for them to show up exactly, and it took a while for them to get there after Sidney uses Dewey's dispatch radio to call in what was happening anyway, so there may have still been enough time for Stu to pull this off before police and paramedics show up. As for getting away undetected, well, if you look closely, where the living room is, where Stu's body was, you see another door that looks like it leads outside. Maybe this is some kind of back door to the house. Either way, Stu could have easily limped his bloody yet alive carcass right out of that door without Sidney or anyone else taking notice after staging his death with the unnamed student's body. Now, when it comes to Sidney and Gail noticing that the body wasn't Stu's, it's real easy to explain that they didn't see it, because when police arrive, the house becomes an official crime scene, meaning that no one could be in the house to avoid evidence being tampered with, and when what they think is Stu's body is being brought outside and loaded up into the ambulance, it most likely would have been in a body bag, which would also explain why Sidney and Gail didn't see the body to notice that it wasn't Stu's. In regards to how DNA/autopsy reports would prove that the body is not Stu's, well, not only could it take some time for results to come back, especially in the 90s when such DNA tools were not as advanced as they are today, but Stu's parents, I would like to think, would have immediately returned home upon hearing the news about what happened in their house and would be asked to identify the body. Upon realizing the body is not Stu's, they realize that their son is still alive and prompts the coroner or authorities in general to perform a cover-up of the actual results in exchange for a substantial amount of money or risk being blackmailed and having their careers tarnished. Stu's parents have money, and with money comes power, as we have spoken about many times in this situation. If they knew about some of the town's top officials' dirty secrets, it would not surprise me to see them blackmail these very authorities to flex that power and get what they're asking for. With all that being said, I definitely do think this theory is plausible. I could definitely see Stu killing someone who kind of looks similar to him and using their body to stage his death, especially if he had doubts that Billy would turn on him and attempt to kill him or frame him for the killing spree entirely. I will also say, based on some details that I will be discussing later on in the video, I do believe in a theory that Roman Bridger could have possibly helped Stu escape that night and helped him recover from his injuries, further leading to a partnership in the third film. Okay, so now we'll be going down the list of films 2 through 6 and explaining how Stu Macher, if revealed alive in Scream 7, may have been a part or influentially present during each killing spree. How Stu Macher could be connected to Scream 2 is simple. Matthew Lillard paid a visit to the set during filming and was cast as a background character during the frat party scene. It's real easy to pay homage and retcon that appearance by saying that this is Stu Macher watching and stalking Sidney and Randy, and he's going unnoticed because he changed his appearance, as Matthew had longer bleached blonde hair at the time. Now, I'm not going to say that he helped Mrs. Loomis and Mickey Altieri because I don't believe that he did. However, him being more of a lingering presence hidden in plain sight really makes sense, especially considering the original ending for Scream 2 was supposed to show someone in a Ghostface costume watching Sidney from afar as she walks off. And even though we did not get that ending, that is still something that could be introduced in 7 if Stu is revealed alive and they give us this crazy backstory where we get flashbacks of him in each film. Moving on to Scream 3 and how Stu Macher is connected to this film, when I go back and rewatch it, it's amazing how many Stu Macher Easter eggs we get in this film that I feel does not get enough mention. There's the replica of both Stu and Sidney's houses on the set of Stab 3. The chase scene in Sidney's replicated house is step-for-step identical to Stu chasing her in her real house in the original film. Then there's the phone call Ghostface makes to Sidney after Roman is detained by police for questioning, similar to when Billy was arrested and Stu called Sidney as Ghostface while she was staying at Dewey and Tatum's house. But I do think we have to start to question, why was Stu Macher's house going to be featured in Stab 3 Return to Woodsboro? Was Roman planning on revealing something about Stu that actually would have translated beyond the movie? Remember, there were 3 different versions of the script to avoid the ending being leaked on the internet. What if one of the scripts read that Stu Macher was going to be revealed alive at the end of Stab 3 as a subtle way to hint that he's alive for real? I think it's very possible considering Roman ended up playing out a different script during the events of the movie. This could have been done to keep Stu's survival unknown while still having him operate as a silent, unrevealed partner, because we all agree Roman Bridger did not act alone in Scream 3. Alright, next is Scream 4, and I must say, out of all the Scream movies starting at 2, this may be the film with the least amount of Stu Macher Easter eggs in it. However, that doesn't mean Stu doesn't connect to the film, as the entire structure for the movie is centered around the Woodsboro remake, recreating what Billy and Stu started in 1996 for the modern day audience. As a matter of fact, I believe this is where the cult of Ghostface originates. The reason I believe this is because the Woodsboro Cinema Club that was ran by Charlie Walker in Scream 4 was initially supposed to be revealed as Stu Macher followers doing his bidding while he's in prison in the original version of Scream 3. Why I believe Scream 4 sneakingly started the cult of Ghostface angle is because I've been on record saying before, I believe there are 3 killers in Scream 4, with one going unrevealed. I've done past videos breaking down all the clues, all of the details, why I believe in this theory, so I'll leave some of those videos on the end screen of this video for y'all to go check out if you haven't already. What also backs up the theory is the fact that in the original plans for Scream 5, Jill Roberts was going to be hunted by another killer playing Ghostface who knows her secret about being a killer in Scream 4, meaning Jill might have had an unseen ally that Charlie Walker didn't know about. Could Stu Macher have been that unseen ally of Jill Roberts, manipulating her and influencing her to hate her cousin Sidney Prescott based on all of the attention she gets, thus pushing the idea of the Woodsboro remake into full gear? I definitely believe so, considering the fact that Stu Macher himself is considered an afterthought compared to the attention Billy Loomis receives in regards to the original murders, so he could definitely understand Jill's frustration, which is why he could have felt creating the cult to carry out the Woodsboro remake would be a perfect way to reinvent not just the original murders, but himself, and finally get the credit he may feel he deserves, only for Jill Roberts to steal that thunder and go off script from what was planned, which would explain the idea of an unrevealed killer coming after her in the original plans for Scream 5. Now on to Scream 2022, aka Scream 5, aka 5 Cream, and how Stu Macher connects to this film. This is where the idea of Stu Macher being alive, leading the cult of Ghostface, setting up these newer killing sprees, and returning in a later Scream film really gained some traction, as there were multiple Easter eggs of Stu Macher littered throughout the film. Easter eggs such as his nephew Vince being introduced in the movie and later killed off, his sister Leslie Macher being name dropped and mentioned, Dewey Riley referencing Stu Macher in a present tense, Dewey's death scene mirroring Stu Macher's own words from the original film on how to properly gut someone, and of course, Amber Freeman, one half of the killers in Scream 5, living in Stu Macher's house. Once again, we got Stu Macher's house in a Scream movie. This is the 3rd time, whether it's replica or whether it's the real deal. Just wanted to point that out there. But I think the glaring clue that fans felt references Stu Macher the most in Scream 5 is in the opening scene when Tara Carpenter forgets that Stu Macher was Billy Loomis' partner in the original killing spree. The reaction from Ghostface on the phone when that had happened sounded like someone who was really pissed off about being forgotten, prompting fans to speculate she was talking to Stu Macher himself. And last but certainly not least, we have screamvi 1, aka Scream 6. Now in this film, based on the 4 total killers revealed in the movie, Greg Brockner doesn't count, y'all, he caught no bodies. The idea of the cult of Ghostface seemed to be coming to fruition, as that is the most killers we've gotten revealed in a Scream film so far. But the 2 biggest clues in the film that connect directly to Stu Macher is during Galeweathers' attack scene, as Ghostface attempts to stab her with both hands clutching a knife raised above his head, exactly how Stu Macher likes to attack his victims. But the most damning concrete clue that hinted at Stu Macher possibly being alive and the one who's attacking Gale in this scene is when Ghostface calls Gale's house phone from a Woodsboro area phone number. Up until the announcement of Matthew Lillard's return to Stu Macher for Scream 7, the Woodsboro area phone number Ghostface uses to call Gale in Scream 6 was arguably the most concrete Easter egg we had gotten that hinted at Stu Macher possibly being alive. Now, I felt it was important to add how Stu Macher is connected to all these films, because when you think about Stu Macher's presence being said to play a major role in Scream 7, you realize Stu Macher's presence has always played a major role in these films, since his alleged death back in Scream 1996, especially when you take into account all the Easter eggs that I laid out from each film here in the video, and that's not even all of them. Scream 5 went back into Billy Loomis's past and revealed that he had a secret love child in Samantha Carpenter. Scream 7 feels like it will be going in a similar direction with the Stu Macher character when it comes to revealing something about the character that we may have thought was true that isn't true, like him being dead for instance, or something about the character that we don't know entirely. Now, I said in my last video that the announcement of Matthew Lillard's return as Stu Macher could jeopardize revealing him alive as an active killer in Scream 7, because then the element of surprise isn't going to be there, because now so many fans theorize and expect his return to play out this way. However, the concept of Stu being alive and an active killer in Scream 7 can work if they go in the direction of revealing that Stu faked his death back in 1996 and has been an active influence in every killing spree throughout the franchise ever since, because that would mean we have been following a killer for almost 30 years without actually having to see him physically present, outside of the lone appearance in Scream 2 in the background, because he had others doing the majority of the work for him along the way. It's a cool way to pay homage while also elevating Roman Bridger's character as the first mastermind killer who had others like Billy and Stu do his bidding for him, because it further highlights the influence one person can have on multiple people without having to be physically present during the events. But it would also highlight the influence Roman may have had on Stu Macher himself, which is why Stu could have chose to follow in Roman's footsteps but take it to a higher level, in terms of being a cult leader-like figure who influences others to don a Ghostface costume and kill for him. I know it is implied as if Roman only met Billy Loomis and never met Stu Macher, but I personally don't buy into that thought, especially considering all the Easter eggs that point to Stu from Scream 3 that I spoke about earlier in the video. Given the information that we have for Scream 7 thus far, as well as everything that I discussed and shared here in the video, I think the idea of Stu Macher staging his death and being involved in all the killing sprees throughout the franchise is more alive and credible than ever before. And why I am rooting for Stu's return to play out this way is because it is believable. And I think that's what's most important about Stu's return, is that the scenario creative decides to go with has to be believable. But okay everyone, that is it for this video. Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on everything that I discussed here in the video. Do you think Stu Macher killed the unnamed student at his party and used his body to stage his death back in 1996? As well as let me know if you're on board with the idea of Stu Macher being revealed alive, working as a mastermind Ghostface in Scream 7, who has had a hand in every Ghostface killing spree seen throughout the course of the franchise, spanning 30 years. Once again, I am Marcus, and this is iShot6Times YouTube Horror Movie channel. Be sure to check me out on all of my social media platforms. Thank you all for watching.